Hello everyone, in this lesson, let's learn how to operate capacitors, reactors, and arc suppression coils. Precautions for the operation of capacitor. First, the capacitor bank is prohibited from closing with charge. The capacitor bank can only be closed again after being cut off for 3 times. Continuous closing is strictly prohibited. Second, capacitors equipped with automatic switching devices should be put into operation frequently. If the unload tap charger of the capacitor bank and transformer is used for joint voltage regulation, the capacitor bank should be prioritized for operation. Third, under normal circumstances, when the bus is in a power outage operation, the capacitor circuit breaker should be disconnected first, and then the outgoing circuit breakers of each route should be disconnected. When power transmission is resumed, the outgoing circuit breakers of each route should be combined first, followed by the circuit breaker of the capacitor. Fourth, the capacitor switch should not be forced to send after tripping. After the protective fuse is blown, it is not allowed to replace the fuse and send power until the cause is identified. Fifth, when the capacitor is deactivated, it should be fully discharged through the discharge coil before the grounding switch can be closed. The discharge time should not be less than 5 minutes. Sixth, before the capacitor is powered off, the automatic switching function of the group of reactive power compensation should be withdrawn. Precautions for the operation of reactors. First, when the bus voltage is lower than the voltage curve issued by the dispatcher, the reactor should be exit first, and then the capacitor should be put in. Second, when the bus voltage is higher than the voltage curve issued by the dispatcher, the capacitor should be exited first, and then the reactor should be put in. Third, switch rear-mounted low resistance under normal circumstances. It is allowed to use a low resistance knife to pull the low resistance in the charged state, but before operation, it should be checked that the low resistance switch has been opened and the low resistance has no external abnormalities and no internal faults. Otherwise, use the low voltage side switch of the main transformer to charge the low resistance. Fourth, when opening or closing the 500 kilovolts shunt reactor disconnector, the 500 kilovolts line where it is closed must be powered off, and the 500 kilovolts line must be in cold standby or maintenance state. Fifth, before the shunt reactor of 500 kilovolts line is sent, it should be put into the main body and remotely trip protection. Precautions for the operation of arc suppression coils. First, when the arc suppression coil reverses the tap or the arc suppression coil stops sending power, the principle of overcompensation should generally be followed. When the overcompensation method cannot be used, the undercompensation method should be used. Second, the switching operation of the arc suppression coil during operation can only be carried out after it is certain that the network has no ground fault. When the current passing through the arc suppression coil insulator exceeds 5 amps, the isolator switch shall not be used for operation without testing or calculation. Third, generally adjust the operation sequence of the arc suppression coil split. When the line is put into the line, under overcompensation operation. First, adjust the arc suppression coil split and then cast the line. When exiting the line, exit the line first and then adjust the arc suppression coil split. The operation sequence under compensation operation mode is the opposite. Fourth, under any circumstances, it is not allowed to connect one arc suppression coil to the neutral point of two transformers at the same time. Fifth, when switching the arc suppression coil from one transformer to another, the arc suppression coil should be withdrawn first and then cast to the neutral point of the other transformer. Previously, we have learned the precautions for the operation of the compensation device. In addition, we also need to master the dangerous points and preventive measures during the operation of the compensation device. First, the dangerous points during capacitor operation and their preventative measures. First, preventative measures for capacitor charge closing. After the capacitor is powered off, it takes more than 3 minutes to close again. Second, preventive measures for charging and grounding of capacitors. During the maintenance of capacitor, the capacitor should be fully discharged before power inspection and grounding can be carried out. Second, the dangerous points and pre-control measures during the operation of the reactor. The dangerous point during the operation of the reactor is mainly the live pulling reactor. The preventive measure is to convert the line to cold standby during a power outage and then pull the reactor. When sending the power, close the reactor first and then send power to the line. Third, the dangerous points and pre-control measures during the operation of the arc suppression coil. First, to prevent resonant overvoltage, try to use the overcompensation method. Only when the overcompensation method is difficult can the undercompensation method be used. When the line is put into the overcompensation operation mode, first adjust the elimination coil and then put into the line. When exiting, exit the line first and then adjust the arc suppression coil. Second, preventive measures for operating the arc suppression coil during a ground fault are to stop operating the arc suppression coil during a ground fault. Let's review the dangerous points and the pre-control measures during the operation of compensation devices, such as capacitors, reactors, and arc suppression coils. That's all for today's lesson. Thank you.